Hello, everybody. We are live. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to my channel. My name is Jasmina from Jasmina Brozovik Astrology. And finally, I have this special guest today with me, Joe. Hi, Joe. How are you?
Hello. I'm good. We finally made
Yeah,
it.
this is our third attempt. So the third time is a charm, they say. So absolutely, I agree with that. So before Joe introduces himself in more details, I want to tell everybody that I had a reading with Joe. Although I'm also an astrologer, because he's practicing a different kind of astrology, and I have to tell you guys, it was amazing. I not only learned so much, the feeling of positive, like empowerment after I left the session was amazing. So that was great. I highly recommend for this type of astrology and for everything. But anyway, and today's topic, I love it because it's Mars Neptune conjunction coming up, and this is all about images and imagination. And this is amazing topic. Joe will demonstrate on mystery charts that I prepared, his techniques and how he delineates a chart and uses images. And I think it's beautiful and amazing. But before we go into that, Joe, please tell us more about what kind of astrology are you practicing? Where is this coming from, this images, and tell us more about that, please.
Yeah. It's always interesting when I get this question about like what kind of astrology do you do these
I
days?
mean, yeah.
Yeah, because when I first started, it was like such a clear thing because I started on a very clear path. I started with traditional Hellenistic astrology, and as the time unfolded and more just started to become its own type of astrology. So at this point, I'm almost a little reserved to say that I'm like a traditional astrologer, but I do think that my practice is primarily rooted in
Mhm.
traditional Hellenistic astrology as well as medieval astrology.
Yes.
Um, I use a lot of traditional techniques in my charts, and I focus mostly on timing as well. But more and
Mhm.
more, my practice is really shifting towards the realms of like astrological magic, things like theurgy, and that's why I'm so interested in working with images, both in chart interpretation, but also for more practical things like manifestation,
Oh
creativity, and all
yeah.
these other things too.
Yeah, I love your post. Also, guys, if go check his Instagram account. I think it's the Mercury Rise or
Yes,
Mercury
the
Rising.
Mercury
The
rise.
Mercury Rise. Yeah, uh, uh, daily images and interpretations of the daily energies, and just it's beautiful. It's very poetic, very,
Thank
but
you.
also very practical. Like it just has both of that those things. So it's very unique, very unique,
Thank you.
amazing. Yeah,
It's been a
cool.
pleasure for me to write those, actually. It really feels like, because one
Mm,
of the big things about being an astrologer is that you're always thinking about the astrology,
yeah.
but you're not always like writing it down and putting it, like setting it in stone, and now everybody can see what you're thinking. And doing those not episodes, but daily horoscopes has been really helpful to just kind of like actually try to put what I'm thinking into like very concise and concrete words, which I think is like the primary goal of this technique using images and all that.
No, I love it. It gives you like a deeper meaning of, how can I use this today? Oh, interesting, So I was thinking, unfortunately, I don't have any grandparents alive today, but today when I read your post, I was like, oh, if I wish I have my grandma alive, I would call her. I just had this urge, because it's just beautiful. It reminds me of the Sabian symbols. So that's kind of,
Yeah,
how every degree has a symbol. So that this is like a different approach, but it reminds me of that. So very beautiful, amazing. Thank you so much.
yeah, of course.
Okay, let's dig in. I just want to say hi to everybody on Instagram as well, if anybody's there, and whoever is here. Thank you for watching. Whoever watches a reply. Please leave a comment or chat if you're live here. Ask questions. I love interacting with everybody. Awesome. Okay. We have a first chart because the first chart. Let's go with the first chart.
Yeah,
I'm
of
excited.
course. Yeah,
I like
so
to
I'm
dig in.
gonna share my screen, but before I
Mhm.
even get into the chart, I kind of want to
Okay.
spend some time explaining,
Yes,
um,
please go.
like why even do astrology like this. Because
Well,
of course the title of the talk, I think, or the podcast. So whatever we're doing,
yeah. So
I
we,
think is
yeah,
working with
yeah.
images in
Images in
astrology.
chart. Yeah, images in chart interpretation. That's how I
Yeah,
put it.
nice. Yeah, because before when we tried to do it for the first time, I started explaining my whole deal with this thing because I guess it's
Oh yeah.
even it's a little hard to call it a technique because it's not so much a technique but more so a way to frame how to interpret a
Hmm.
chart because I think sometimes it's very easy for us to um, look at a chart and see all these aspects, all these planets, and all these points, and
Hmm.
start to, at least for myself, especially from a traditional background, to start really just going at like the math of it. Okay, so Saturn is square this, it's in this house, it's in this, it's in that, and I think that that's very
Hmm.
important. But I think that uh, when it comes to bringing images into the chart interpretation, is that I think my goal in using all these data points is to be able to paint a picture for both for either the person that I'm reading for, or in the case of horoscopes, for the people who are reading my horoscopes, or in case for myself as well, just something that is concrete and not concrete at the same time that allows for both that the openness for creativity
It
and
makes sense. Sorry,
Mhm.
I mean, it makes sense because all these archetypes come from mythology, right? Which is also stories and pictures and how we interpret them in our heads. So this is just another way, which is beautiful. And before you go on, I just want
Yeah.
to say hi to Emily Lunar Pumpkin. Hi, she's my
Hi,
one of
Emily.
my colleagues from LSA. Yeah, cool.
Oh, nice.
Go on.
Yeah, and so it's more so this is less of a technique and more so like a way to approach a chart and a way to approach
Mhm.
anything in a chart. Today, as we're looking at these charts, we're gonna be talking about the omnus and figuris a whole lot, and I'll explain what that is. But this is really something that you can do to the simplest thing in a chart and to the most complicated thing in a chart. Sometimes in my horoscopes, as I'm creating the images, sometimes I'm getting really nitty gritty and trying to see like, oh, what is this planet doing? But then other times I'm like, the moon is in Aries today. What is an image that feels like moon in Aries without getting too complicated? So it's not something that needs to be complicated. It can fit anything. So I'm gonna share my screen now.
Okay.
Um,
I want to say hola to Moni, Pasiona Astrologia. I'm not very good at Spanish, but oh, hola. I know she's a Spanish speaking.
oh, nice,
Cool.
cool.
I love my audience is amazing.
So I'm sharing screen, but I don't know if you can see it.
Not yet. We tested it just before we started. It was good. So,
Yeah, we did. It's saying that I'm sharing though.
mm,
Maybe there's something they have to click.
do I need to? Do I need to click?
I'm not sure because last time I don't know
Yeah,
if you clicked
we just
anything.
test. I clicked something, but it didn't pop up now.
Oh
it was.
no.
It didn't pop up now.
Well, if we can
We
share
should.
screen, I can just do my best to describe what's going on in the chart.
Oh no. Okay, I'll to share my screen. Okay, let's see. Uh, no, not this one. Yeah. So you can talk about astrology and, until I figure this out because now because I had to put it on the other screen, full screen. A bunch of stuff I need to do now. Okay. Oh. Okay. Again. This is guys when you have live. This is what happens.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And Mercury is just starting to get out of retrograde, so we can still blame it on
Yeah.
that.
Still stationing. Okay. So
Oh, there we go. There we
hopefully,
go.
so yeah. So now my screen. So this is just an AstroSeek. I'm sorry. Your was much better. Your was in your own tool, but anyway.
Oh no, it's all good. I think this also has everything
Okay.
that I need, anyways. And I also
Okay.
took notes before we started.
Okay. Cool. Amazing.
But
Thank
okay,
you.
so yeah, of course. Okay, so like I said, this is
Hi,
a
misbehaving.
way to approach. What's that? Sorry.
Sorry, I just said hi, misbehaving. She's my biggest fan. I had to say hi to her. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, nice. Oh, hi, misbehaving. Yeah, no worries. Okay, so like we were talking about, And this is a technique that you can use for pretty much anything in a chart, just as a way of thinking about it and to try and get rid of some of the more technical thinking, I guess. But today, because I guess the challenge with these charts that I have no idea who they are, is to kind of like get a sense of who this person is and how I would go about doing that. If this person is my client, I just am seeing them for the first time, and how I would use a sort of like pictorial thinking to get at their chart. And one of the things that I really like to do is called figuring out who the Almutin figuris is of a chart. The Almutin figuris is essentially like the ruler of the chart, and
Okay.
that gets complicated when we're talking about astrology,
So
because different
is that term?
astrologies will have. Yeah, go
I
for it.
know. Is that term from Hellenistic astrology or from medieval? Where is that term coming from?
It is medieval astrology.
Okay.
And
Cool.
Hellenistic astrology, we do have similar things, but they'll be called all sorts of different things. But that's what I was gonna say. With the history of astrology, there's always somebody trying to come up with a better method to figure out who the ruler of the chart is. But this one is just the one that I like the most.
Okay.
It's based off of Ibn Ezra's method, if anyone is nerdy enough and wants to figure it out. But
Okay.
so
Cool.
essentially, what it is that we look at these 5 points in the chart that are said to be the most important points, or they're points that have to do with like giving life and animating the native or the person that owns the chart in one way or another. And a lot of these will be very familiar to most people, which is the sun, the moon, and the rising, which is the big 3, like everybody asks. But the other 2 that also get added to this list is the lot of fortune and also the prenatal syzygy, which is just a
Okay.
fancy word for the new moon or the full moon that happened just before you were born. So it would also
Mhm.
take that into account.
Mhm.
I
So,
always,
so
when
for
I'm
this
working,
person,
oh yeah,
sorry, my nerd me, my brain, Gemini brain already works.
you're
This
good.
person is born like in a balsamic phase, right? So that
Hmm.
means the full moon would be important prior to
Yes,
this. Okay.
yeah, it would have been the full moon, not the new moon.
Okay.
So you always go to the one right before it. In my charts,
Mhm.
the way that I draw them, I always like to have the last full moon and new moon just to
Yeah.
see. But for this technique, you always just use the whatever last lunation happened.
Mhm.
Um, cool. So wait, sorry, I think I just triggered something in my camera. Um, so, like I was saying, we look at all these points, and essentially, what we're trying to figure out with these points is who rules these points the most. And in traditional astrology, we have all sorts of rulers. We're used to, or typical domicile rulers, as we call, or like the rulers of the signs. So, like Aries, for example, is said to be ruled by Mars. Taurus is ruled by Venus, and so on and so forth. But then in traditional astrology, we'll ascribe rulers to specific degrees as well. And that's why the technique gets a little bit more complex. Because you can have, for
Mhm.
example, this chart with a lot of fortune at 22 degrees Taurus. It's in Taurus, which is ruled by Venus. But the 22nd degree, which I have it on my screen here, is actually in the terms of Jupiter, or the terms of Saturn, actually. Um, so those few degrees have something about Saturn in that. So what we do is that we go through each of
Mhm.
these points, we figure out the ruler of that specific degree, the planet that's strongest, and then we agglomerate all these points. And I hope I'm making sense. We agglomerate all of these points
Yes.
and
Yes.
find
Okay.
the Mhm. Did you have something?
It
A
make
question?
it makes sense to me. It's just like sometimes we calculate what is our strongest signature sign. We also get points for planets, but you do this for the degrees now, so kind of you give points to
Yeah.
degrees.
Hmm. And the
Also,
reason why I like this technique so much. Oh, yeah, go ahead. Go
sorry,
for it.
Joe. We have a question, so I really want to answer. So Emily's asking, do the decans have an effect on these?
Yes, they do, and that's one of the places where things can get tricky. Because if you are familiar with the decans, there's also all sorts of methods of decan rulership, and so you'll have to decide which method you like the best, and kind of just use that ruler. So you'd really go through the domicile ruler, so the ruler of the actual sign. You go through the exaltation ruler, so if the sign has an exaltation planet, you also consider that one. Then you go the triplicity ruler, which is the ruler of that particular element. So in this case, it's a Taurus. The Lord of Fortune is in Taurus, so that's an Earth sign. We can see that they were born during the day, so Venus is said to be the ruler of Earth during the day. So that would be a Venus thing. And then we go through the Egyptian terms, or the bounds, if you like to call them that. And then after that, we'd go through the decans. So the decans are important, but it's kind of like our last point of reference in that whole thing.
Okay, now I have to interrupt because my brain also works. So I know that this is nothing to do with the sex. I know that Venus is actually, if you're born at night, she's more benefic, not during the day. But this is
yes, that's correct. Well, it is related to sect, but what we'd have to open a whole can of worms.
Okay. Let's not go there.
I'll just say it very quickly, because each of the elements have 3 planetary rulers, and they kind of like work together to rule. And there is one that's kind of like the daytime manager, one that's the nighttime manager, and then the other one that helps out the other 2 all the time. And for this technique, what we would use is the manager of the time of this chart. So it's a day chart. We would use the day manager of the Earth element. Does that make sense?
Okay. I have to. I
and I know that
I will rewatch this. I will rewatch this and take notes. So just go.
And I know that I said, and it's funny because I said I started this with, let's not get too complicated with our astrology. Let's just think about some images. And here we are, getting really complicated.
Yeah, because we are 2 astrologers, and with strong Mercuries, we can't. I can't.
Yeah, we can't help it.
I have to. No.
But the reason why I love this technique so much is because it really does make you look at all these important placements in a person's chart and try to figure out which planet has the biggest hold in the chart. And here's where we depart from the complication, because once you have that figured out, which I did for this person, you just have to focus on that one planet and really try to paint a picture of like, what is that planet doing? Like, despite all of these other things that we already talked about, like, what does it look like? What does it feel like? What are the textures, the sounds, and the colors, and all these sorts of things? So, like I said, I ran the whole calculation, and for me, I came to Venus as being like the absolute ruler of the chart, the almutant figuress of the chart. And so what I would do is that I would look at a few things. I'd look at the sign that Venus is in and who rules it, the closest aspect, and these are things that I actually, as I'm writing my horoscopes, I have a spreadsheet, and I go filling in each day. I go, this is Venus day, so Venus is in this sign, it's ruled by this guy, they're in this type of aspect, and the closest aspect is this one. And for natal charts, which is different from a horoscope, I'd also consider the house that it's in, just to sort of feel into that.
I think it's beautiful. I don't know. I'm in love with this. I just love it. This is like, I don't know. It's like writing a book or a poem in astrology with astrology. I don't know. It's just so beautiful.
Yeah, no, totally. That's the way that I approach it, at least.
Amazing.
But yeah, so here we have Venus in Capricorn. And the way that I like to start with these images is to start always with the planet, because the planet will always be the strongest sort of pull and descriptor of what's going on. And especially since we're saying that this is the planet that rules this whole person's life, like the one that has the biggest hold on it, I think it's really important to just get a sense of what that planet is like. And so what I'll do is I'll forget everything else and just think about Venus. I know that Venus is the goddess of beauty, it's the goddess of pleasure, music, the arts, and all these things. So if I were to write a horoscope on that day, I'd be like, okay, it's probably going to be somewhat of a beautiful, artsy sort of scene. And I always like to add like people, like actual figures in there. And so I'd be like, there's probably a lady in there somewhere. The scene is probably beautiful in one way or another. And I just leave it at that. That gives me kind of like the bulk of what this is. And then the next thing that I'll do is actually think about the sign, like I said, the sign and the planet that rules it. So I know that it's Capricorn and it's ruled by Saturn. And a few things that Saturn is related to is like old age, history, time, things like difficulty, maturity, and all sorts of things like that. So then I use that as another layer for my image because I already I started painting this picture of a lady. She's beautiful and she's in some sort of place, but it's a Saturnine place. So then I have to bring some sort of old thing to that, or some sort of
it's interesting.
austere and refined thing. Yeah.
It's interesting that it's a she actually. So I'm going to tell you because it's actually a she, a musician. Because you just said it, and I can't wait. I can't. It's a female musician, and she has this Saturn on the MC, which is just another layer. It's just beautiful. I don't know. I'll go ahead. I'm already caught.
Oh my god, you're awesome. So yeah, and like now that I know that she's a musician too, and that probably would have been the route that I was gonna go anyways. I'd probably think about art or music, but something that's old. So instead of like being in like maybe a modern art gallery or like a modern like hip hop concert, it's probably more like something like operatic or something that's a little bit more classical in a way. So if I were to paint an image with just these two, it would probably be a lady sitting in maybe like an opera house, and she's playing this instrument, or singing probably. Because one of the things that I like to do is that I always like when I'm thinking of planets and signs that they don't rule, is that I'll go, okay, Venus is in Capricorn, which is an Earth sign, and we already have a point of reference for Venus in an Earth sign, which is her own sign, which is Taurus. And Taurus deals with the voice and all sorts of things like that, deals with music, pleasure, and all that. And so I would just bring those same attributes, but make it a little more Saturn-y. So like, yes, it's singing, but maybe it's singing that's a little bit more deep or profound. Like if maybe we could even use it to describe the person's voice, where their voice is very deep and it really has this sort of like weight to it.
Oh, okay. I'm not even gonna say. I'm just gonna. Oh boy, this is the best. Go ahead.
Oh my god.
I can't wait. I can't wait for this too. Okay, just I won't interrupt you anymore.
I hope I know the person. I hope I even know the person because I'm very bad.
I think you. Yeah, that's okay. I think you know. I think you know this one. Okay, let's go.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's amazing.
But yeah, so and then we can keep refining it from that. And this is why I said in the beginning that the technique of how to approach placements can be as complicated or as simple as we go, because we can just start with Venus and stop there, and then we see that we just added the Saturn piece, and then we can go into those smaller divisions, like we're talking about with the decans. That's the second decan of Capricorn. And the decans are my favorites because they're so like pictorial. They have very strong images to them. And I always like to just resort to the tarot. And in the tarot, Capricorn 2 would be equal to the 3 of Pentacles. And the image of the 3 of Pentacles is like 3 collaborators like working together. So if I wanted to add an extra layer to that image, it would be not only like this lady who's singing, she has a profound voice, she's singing like in an opera house, it's very beautiful and refined, but maybe she has like other people singing with her and collaborating, maybe like a choir of some sort, or like a band following her or something like that. Or we could even also add the house, because as a Taurus rising chart, Venus being the ninth sign from it would bring these sort of significations like international affairs, philosophical affairs, education, and things like that. So maybe she sings and she does all these things, but maybe it has more of a spiritual sort of gospel-y almost flavor to it. But yeah, I think that's all. We could
Okay,
keep going, but
no,
yeah.
I like what you. I like no. I know you can keep going, but this is just more than enough. It was beautiful, and she has very harsh, deep voice. That's how at least I hear it. I can reveal. I mean, I'm recycling somebody I already had on the show, but for this purpose, it's interesting. This is actually Miley Cyrus.
Oh, whoa! She does have a deep voice.
That's when you said deep voice, I was like, oh my god, because she has this, this really deep, like a harsh, like a harp voice. Anyway, it's beautiful. You described her amazingly. And did she, when you said education and teaching, it's interesting how she did actually influence all these kids when she was Hannah Montana, right? So she has that like a educational,
that's true.
Kind of a role in many inspired many kids to go and do music. And so yes, I would definitely see that. Beautiful. Yeah, I love it. I love it.
That's really interesting, especially with like the Capricorn and the traditional sort of flavor to it, because she does country music, which is a bit of a tradition. But it's interesting because I totally neglected the Uranus Venus conjunction, because it's like, yeah, she does something that's traditional, but she definitely throws her own spin on it and does something totally different. But like I said, it's like one of those things where you just can't just keep adding more and more layers.
But it's interesting. She's coming from a music family, like, so it's a tradition in her family. Her dad is a country singer, right? Billy Ray, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm saying, so that's all you can see Saturn there. Saturn father traditionally going through his footsteps. Like you could go layer by layer and see this. It's just beautiful. I think amazing.
Yeah.
It's exciting. Okay. Next one. Look at me.
That's so cool.
I'm gonna stop sharing and just to see if you can maybe share now, just to try it out.
If I can try and share?
Yeah, again. And then if not, I'm gonna
let's do it.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm clicking. It did pop up. Yes, there you go. Haha, we did it.
Oh, nice. Okay, so
this
I guess we're on chart 2 now.
Okay, yes. Okay, let's go here.
Okay, so this one we can go a lot quicker through it.
Okay.
And I apologize for everybody. My chart view, I know, is strange for most people.
It's okay. This is your technique.
Point of things. Thank you.
Quickly for astrology nerds I know many people are watching who are astrology nerds like me. Just explain quickly these decans that are showing. What is that? Just quickly, your wheel. What does that mean? Showing?
I can give you a walkthrough of all the things that I have on, just like a lay of the land.
Just quickly, yeah, because I know there are many nerds who'd be like,
over here. Yeah, no, totally. So for those of you who like to know, despite being mostly in the traditional astrology camp, I'd use Placidus houses. So and you'll notice that when I delineate things, I'll say like the 9th sign versus the 9th house, and then sometimes I'll use the 9th house because I try to use both. So over here I have the Placidus cusps. I do use Lilith in my chart as well. So we see that this chart has Lilith rising. Of course, I have all the traditional planets. I also have the outer planets a little bit faded over here, just so I know that they can be seen.
I love it.
And so over here we have the decans. So the decans are essentially the 3 divisions of a zodiac sign. So a zodiac sign has 30 degrees. The decans are 10 degree sectors of each of those, and they're pretty even, in contrast to the bounds, which are the ones in the outer wheel. They're uneven and mysterious. No one really knows the rationale behind them. There's some theories that are pretty good, popping up in and out of the astrology sphere these days. People like Cameron from Omega Astrology and Genzar have been doing really great work on the bounds.
Oh, yeah.
And I guess the other things that I do have that most people don't. So also this point here, like I was saying, this is where the last new moon happened, and this is where the
Mhm.
last full moon happened. So I have it color coded with the sun and with the moon. And then I have the lot of fortune here and a lot of spirit. I also work with the other hermetic lots, but I just don't have them on because it's too busy. But that's the lay of the land.
Yeah,
That's what I
awesome,
have on my
awesome,
chart.
awesome.
Yeah, so we already talked about how to figure out the all-mutant figure, so we don't have to do too much. Now, this was an interesting one actually, because sometimes you find charts where two planets can kind of like fight for that position of like I'm ruling this chart, and this was one of those where I was like, huh, it could be this guy, it could be this guy, and those two guys were Mercury and Saturn. But what I found very interesting is that Mercury and Saturn are sextile in this chart, anyways. So I guess it really doesn't matter because you can't have one without the other.
That's good.
But I did settle on Mercury at the end. And the reason why that is, and I think it's a little bit important to note, is because Mercury is also super angular in the chart. If we notice over here, too, if even though the midheaven is not part of this technique, the midheaven is in Mercury's decan over here and also in Mercury's terms. So I know that Mercury is pretty strong. Saturn is also in the 12th house, or the 12th sign, in comparison to Mercury being in the 10th. So Mercury has more juice to provide for the
Okay.
chart. So that's where I went with Mercury. So same thing that I would do for that last chart. We start with the planet, and whereas Venus is the goddess of beauty, love, arts, and crafts, and all these other things, Mercury is more of like this colorly type. It's about crafting and research and theorizing and talking, conversing, doing a little bit of everything. Mercury is one of those planets where it's kind of like a toss bag. It's like the
Okay.
wild card of the zodiac. So it can sometimes be surprising in that way. But I definitely especially when I'm writing horoscopes for Mercury, whenever I'm starting a Mercury image, I'm always thinking of somebody either like writing or reading or doing some sort of public communication or some sort of thing like that. Um, and Cancer, though, it's really interesting because Cancer is ruled by the moon. And one thing that I always find fascinating about Mercury and the moon is that they really share in this speediness. They share both in the speediness and the sort of conversational quality to them. Because in modern astrology, we used to think of Mercury as the messenger, but in traditional
Yeah.
astrology, it's both Mercury and the moon can also be messengers because the moon is moving the fastest. She's making all these sorts of aspects. So whereas Mercury is more so like your yeah,
I
go
would
for it.
I would agree. I would agree because I have Mercury Moon tight conjunction in my chart, so I don't know the difference anyway. So,
Yeah,
so
that's true. I have the same thing too. So I'm like, oh,
yes,
they're one and the same.
yeah. Like what I feel, what I think, I don't get it, guys. Like for me,
Oh my
it's
god.
amazing. Yeah,
But
I know.
that's one of the things that I would really gravitate towards with this is this topic of conversation and sharing information. Maybe something like journalism, because it really is that sort of like quick information. You grab it, you dispel it. But one of the other things that Mercury, no, sorry, not Mercury, but the Moon is also related to is not just like gossip and like talking with everybody, but it's also I totally blanked out on the word that I was going to use. Um, but
It
it's also
happens.
I know, but it's also storytelling. That wasn't quite the word that I was going to use, but because the moon is also tales and creativity and things and mythology also are all things that are very lunar. So thinking about Mercury super angular in this chart, I know this person probably talks a whole lot, and then with the moon thing it probably would be more so in the imaginative storytelling sort of realm. um, yeah.
Okay, let me tell you something. So I this person what is she doing? It's a she again. I'll tell you, it's a she. So I'm thinking, uh, what is she actually doing, and what do we know her for? I'm not sure that this is actually something that she really is or wanted to do. That's why I always like to, when you have a client,
Oh.
to put it into context. That's my impression. I'm not saying that. I just feel because of the backstory about this, she went one way. But is that really her, or would she do that if she were not kind of not pressured but put into that direction? So that's my
Oh,
thought. So
sure.
everything you're saying makes me feel that she might be that more if she did something on her own with her own choice and will in her life,
Ooh,
because
I'm
sometimes, yeah.
curious as to who this is then. But so going back to the image though, I would imagine like maybe like a scholar in their comfy little room because it's Cancer, like writing a novel or like writing like probably a novel. Um, and okay, so after looking at the planet and the sign that it's in, I also said that the next thing that I pay attention to is the closest aspect to another planet. And sometimes, and this might be the thing that really changes some of what we're talking about, because sometimes this closest aspect can either affirm or
Mhm.
deny what the planet is actually trying to do. And Saturn definitely is more of the denial type of planet. It will tend to say no towards things, but it is a sextile, which is interesting. Um, and this is where you have to start doing some brain mathematics with your
Yeah.
astrology, because it's like, yes, there's Mercury Saturn sextile. It's good to think about Mercury Saturn
Mhm.
combinations as a whole, because whereas Mercury is the quick information, Saturn is more um, the long time study, the sit
Mhm.
down and get to work sort of study and information, like wisdom, hard work, and
Yeah.
all these other things too.
Yeah. But Mercury is more of a tweet, but then if Saturn comes, like tweet is just not gonna get it.
Yeah,
You
no.
need to sit down and make an essay.
Yeah.
Get
A
serious.
whole
Yeah.
novel.
Yeah.
A whole novel. You need to take a decade to write that novel. That's Saturn.
Yeah. Yeah. No
um,
tweets.
and so
Okay.
that could be even a thing that we could see with this person. And aside from like the reality of who this person is, just thinking about the Mercury sextile to Saturn and how that
Mhm.
could affect an image, is that maybe we are talking about a person in their comfy space, but they're writing this novel that seems to never be published. They're just constantly writing and writing and writing and writing it, but the word is not getting out for one reason or another. One other thing too that we can talk about this chart, especially because Mercury is ruling Saturn, and so there's a case of reception if we're getting fancy with our astrology. Um, um, it could also be somebody who um, works at a hospital, because the 12th house is hospitals, hospices, places of seclusion. And so maybe that can change our image a little bit, where the person's still writing in a comfortable place, but maybe it's like their comfortable office at the hospital.
I was gonna say, but in a loony bin. Anyway,
Yeah.
that was my. How. Anyway, my brain goes also making my images. Okay, I see. I mean, I see
No,
your
but
pictures. Mhm.
totally. Yeah, but it
Yeah.
could even be somebody who, because we're playing along with the storytelling thing, because there are
Mhm.
people who actually go to hospices and places like that where people are having these difficulties, and they tell stories to distract them in one way or another. So it could also be that this is a person like
Mhm.
surrounded by the elderly in our image. They're in a very comfortable room. The elderly maybe are struggling a little bit, but this person is telling a beautiful story to kind of like soothe their
W-
um,
Would you say,
nerves.
yeah, would you say that the Mercury Saturn sextile in this case also can give this person a better focus on her
I think
mind?
so. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah, yeah. I would say that that's what I've seen. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
especially Saturn in Virgo
Hmm.
too, because it really
Hmm.
does focus things up and
So
tends to
yeah,
like amass and compact.
yeah. I think she's very
Yeah, and
focused. That's why I'm mentioning this. I think she's very focused. That's why I'm mentioning
nice.
this.
Yeah, no, of course. And because last time I didn't add I talked about the decans, but I didn't talk about the terms. The
Hmm.
way that I like to think about the terms in these images is always like how the thing is actually getting done. Like after, and that's why I leave the terms for my last step, because first I start with Mercury, that person talking or writing, and then we go into Cancer. It's like the person is talking and writing in a comfortable space. Then we go to sextile Saturn in the 12th house. Maybe this person is talking or writing in a comfortable space, but they're bringing comfortable to people who are uncomfortable. But in Jupiter's terms, how
Interesting.
would that be? It would be probably out of charity, or like out of like some sort of like philanthropic pursuit or something like that. Or even because Jupiter is also related to money, and especially Mercury in Jupiter's terms, could be that this person is more on the business side of that whole ideal. Maybe she's not the person telling the stories or taking care of people, but she's kind of like the person overseeing it all and like giving the advice or advising the people who actually do those things. But
To be
yeah.
honest, she might write a book one day. I'm not saying she won't. So, that's very
Cool. Who is
possible.
she?
Okay, so this is like you're gonna be. This is a shocker because this is a Venus Williams, a tennis player.
Oh, whoa, that's cool.
And why I'm saying because she was kind of forced into tennis by her father, and he forced both her and her sister into. I don't think she would particularly be a tennis player if she had to choose her life path. That's just when I was looking at this chart, I was thinking, you know what? I get it, Libra rising, maybe partnership, like I understand Mars and Saturn together, can give you, hard work, and then, in Virgo, I understand some kind of where she's a sports person, but to be honest, if she really had to choose what she really wanted to do, I don't think she would be a tennis player. That's just my take on her.
Oh, true. But with that information, though, I think I can
Yeah.
see why that is. Because one of the other things that we didn't talk about is how Mercury is also related to games and sports, especially more so in traditional astrology. Like
Oh,
in
yeah.
more of the modern literature, you see sports be more of a Mars thing.
Yeah.
But if you read older texts, you see that be more
Mm.
of a Mercury thing because of the
Oh,
games.
cool. I didn't know that. I didn't know
Yeah.
that. Okay.
Um, Especially tennis too, because tennis is like a back and forth sort of thing, and that to
Mm-hmm.
me feels lunar because the moon is going in circles back and forth all the time.
Oh,
But
yeah.
the biggest one that to me really says like maybe sports is that we didn't pay attention to Saturn's houses that Saturn rules,
Ah,
and Saturn actually
okay.
rules the fifth house, which is games and sports.
Mm.
So that sextile is directly probably speaking of that.
Oh,
But
yeah, I didn't notice that. Oh, yeah. You're right. I
mhm.
didn't notice that. Yeah, and the fourth house. It's interesting. Her father and sister, and it's like a family thing. Yeah, interesting.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we can now go and layer by layer, but it's yeah, interesting. So I said I do feel that she might write a book one day. I'm not seeing, like she's a Gemini,
yeah,
right?
she
She has
totally
all this,
could
right? With
because
Mercury in heaven.
she's still playing, right?
I think
Or has
she's
she
now
retired?
she's in her mid 40s. So I don't know. There was this movie with Will Smith a couple of years ago, but I don't know nothing after. I'm not really a sports person to follow sports, so I don't know. But
Yeah,
I
me
wanted
neither.
I wanted to put three examples of three different professions, just because you know.
Yeah, no, but that's very
Yeah,
useful.
but I'm
Totally.
yeah, yeah, but I'm not following sport. I think that she's uh, very smart. That's for sure. So anyway, that's good. I like that, and I wouldn't pass against her if she wrote a book sooner or later.
Yeah, maybe she will one day. She's still alive.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She is. Of course, she is. Cool. Okay, and the last one. This is so fun.
Ooh,
I
yeah.
love it.
Last chart. Okay, this one was fun. Because
Hmm.
wait, where are you? Okay, there you are.
That's a good one.
So
Yep. Yep.
again, same sort of thing. You look at all those planets, the sun, the moon, the rising is not a planet, but you still look at it. The lot of pressure is not
Yeah,
a
yeah,
planet, but
yeah.
you still look at it. And the prenatal syzygy. This one I came down to Jupiter, and that one sometimes with
Mm.
charts you can see very easily because this one we see that the prenatal syzygy was over here. So this point, like I was talking about, is the last
Mm.
new moon, and since the moon is waxing,
Oh.
the last lunation was a new moon. Um, and we see that the sun is still pretty close to it, and so 2 points are already. Two of these important points are already ruled by Jupiter, so we know it's a big deal. But then the ascendant is also ruled by Jupiter, so then that
Mhm.
adds another weight. And sometimes with charts like these, I won't even bother going through all the points. I'm like, that's Jupiter.
Okay, cool.
But
Cool, cool. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Um, but then you also look at the other ones just to be sure. But anyways, I was focusing more so on Jupiter, and this was actually the chart that I was really leaning on sports as a signification,
Okay.
because
Okay.
uh,
Okay.
because we have Jupiter as the ruler of the chart, in Mars'
It's
sign,
not
and in the
sports.
fifth
It's not
house.
sports.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
It's
I
not.
know
It's not.
because you said they're all different
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
professions.
Okay.
But this is the one that I was really thinking
Hmm.
either sports or like a coach of some sort, because Jupiter is teachers, educators, advisors, and all sorts of people like that. It also rules children, so I would think that this person with Jupiter in the fifth house is either has lots of children or is around
Mm.
children all the
Yes.
time. I think like the
That's it.
children thing is definitely
You'll see.
unavoidable
That's
with this one.
this with children. You will from this person's personal life. It's a signature thing that we know
Oh,
all
that's
about.
cool.
Anyway, yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, that's cool.
From the personal life, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh yeah. So again, starting with the planet, like I said, Jupiter is some sort of teacher or advisor or helper.
Mhm.
Sometimes Jupiter can also be priests and people of faith, but this is where you have to look at the where the planet is. Being in Aries ruled by Mars, I don't really get priestly vibes from Jupiter and Aries. I guess some sort of priest could be a Jupiter and Aries, but I did not get that one. So I ruled
Okay.
out
So what is the
priest.
image? What is the image you got?
Yeah. So for me, I really lean towards the teacher role.
Okay.
The teacher, probably like a tall teacher, because Jupiter's always big people. Um, um,
Hmm.
well,
Hmm.
not always big people. It can also be very small people. Jupiter's on the extremes.
Yeah.
um,
On the extreme
but
spectrum.
I
Okay.
tend to think, yeah, I tend to think of Jupiter more so as large rather than small. I've seen more at large, really tall jovials rather than tiny jovials.
I
Um,
know that this person studied journalism when they were young. So
oh, cool. Oh, that's
so
interesting.
so it can be and publishing. I think they were in the high school paper or something. So that's kind of connected with
Oh,
Jupiter.
cool.
Yeah, I think that was
Oh,
the
that's
story.
true.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah.
But yeah, so the first thing that I saw, even like without going through my step by step image procedure, I right away just saw this tall person surrounded by tiny
Hmm.
children.
Okay,
um,
interesting. Okay.
and being in the fifth house, and ruled by Mars, and Jupiter's actually receiving a square from Mars. It's separating in this chart because Mars is faster. Mars is already 1 degree away, but there's definitely not Mars exalted Mars square Jupiter that I thought like maybe this is a coach, like so like a really tall sports coach surrounded by children, kind of like really maybe on the sterner side of things, but still a little sweet, but very much telling all these children what to do, like bringing order to some sort of chaos. um, that would be the way that I think about
Yeah.
it.
I think I think that describes this person's relationship with their children.
Oh,
That's exactly what I
I'm
read. At
actually
least
so
what,
curious now.
yeah. No, at least what I read from the, anyway, just
Yeah,
it's
for
interesting.
sure.
It's interesting.
But okay, so in the last two, the first one I added the decans as a layer for interpretation. The one before that I added Jupiter. This one I think
Mhm,
I'll do a little bit of the triplicity thing because we haven't really talked too much
mhm,
about it.
mhm,
And this one is actually a very good example for that because fire signs are actually ruled by Jupiter during the night. So it's Jupiter
mm.
in his own element. And this is why I really gravitated towards, despite the Mars square, to the more benevolent fieriness. Like, yes, it's a person who's like very adamant and like giving orders and giving structure to this whole thing, but they're not doing that in like a Saturnine or like a martial way. It's more of like this
Mhm.
carrying Jupiter, like the fire that warms you up at night, sort of thing, since it's Jupiter's own element.
Mm.
So in an image, I would even actually use something like that. Maybe instead of um, playing sports during the day, we're like at a campfire at night, and then Jupiter, this
Oh.
this guy is giving like a sermon to all these little pesky children, wreaking chaos all around that person. Um, but again, we can also add the terms as well. It's in the terms of Venus, and I think that would even further emphasize this sort of like um, more gentler approach to education as well. If we add the
Mhm,
decan, the decan is the first decan of the whole entire zodiac, so that would be the Two of Wands um, in the tarot. And I
mhm.
can't remember the original Two of Wands card because I have so many tarot decks at this point. But it's usually a guy like very brave, kind of like storming forward into like the unknown. So it could be that this person is like a leader, really pushing the people that they're educating to do better and to be better, especially because Jupiter in the chart also rules the first and the fourth house, which is the family. Um, so it can be like a very much like the head of a family, like the house or like the advisor of the family sort of thing.
This is you're talking all about personal life that I know. So this is not touching this person's professional life. I mean, it is in a way. Like,
Hmm.
okay, so I'll tell you, it's a male actor. Okay, but
Hmm.
the roles, I think about the roles he chose to play makes sense. Like with everything that you were describing makes sense. Sometimes actors actually chose roles that are aligned with
Yeah,
their
totally.
personality, right? But everything else is just so about this person's personal life. Anyway, just when you're
Oh,
done, I'll let you know.
who is he? No,
If you,
I
oh, if
think
you're
I'm
done,
done.
okay. So this is Brad Pitt,
Oh,
and
whoa, cool.
and he had adopted all these children with Angelina Jolie. They had like, I don't know, seven, eight, and
Oh, that
and
is right.
there's a whole this issue, and they have adopted and their own children, but there's this whole issue about he being strict father, and then this being like a father figure. But I don't know the whole story. There's always two sides to every story. It's a messy divorce, messy settlement
Yeah.
still going on. I don't know, but I do feel that uh, there was a clash of authority between the two of them, maybe.
Mm.
And but there's definitely lots of kids, and I think he loves kids in that sense. I don't know. They say that he did this, did that. I don't know what happened, but interesting, right? He like there was like seven, eight kids, so very interesting. Cool. This is
Yeah,
amazing. I thought
fun.
this was so good. This was so much fun. Of course, when you talk to a client, the context. You give the images that are. But this was
Oh,
so on
definitely.
point.
Yeah, and I
This was
think
so on
this
point.
is even more useful for clients because then it gives you
Mhm,
an entryway of talking about things, especially sometimes really difficult things, in a way
mhm,
that's not difficult right away. You're like painting a picture or painting an image, and then something in that image will speak to them, and that initiates the conversation. Because I think sometimes we're so like astrology nerds as we are, like we're so focused on actually
mhm.
predicting something and helping
Yeah.
and just telling somebody what's going to happen, but we forget that we're really there to just help them figure out whatever is happening rather
Yes,
than
yes,
tell them what's going to happen, you know?
yes, yeah. I usually try to avoid giving any advice if it's possible. Like I'm just suggesting this is, but it's up to them to make a decision in the end. The power
Yeah.
is in them. But they can, yeah, the images really can help. Um, I'm gonna start using some of your ideas because my Mercury plate is so hyped up now. Amazing. I really appreciate you taking the time to showcase what you do. And this is really good. It's been fun. It's been amazing. I really appreciate it. So before we
Of course. Thank you.
thank you for everybody for being here and for interacting. I really appreciate everybody. Tell us what you have going on right now. What are you doing? Where can people find you? Tell me more about that.
So right now, I'm mostly just doing the daily horoscopes because I'm working on a pretty big project behind the scenes that's coming up
Ooh.
very soon. Um, so, like I said earlier, I'm very much interested in astrological magic, and I've done many talismans in the past, but this is going to be the first talisman that I'm making that people will actually be able to purchase. And
Wow.
I'm working on an Algol talisman. The election is set for May 8th, so that's when I'll be creating it. But it will be out a little bit later, so follow me on places, and you figure out when it comes out.
Awesome.
But other than
That's amazing.
That is all.
So your website is also the Mercury Rise and Instagram.
The Mercury
Correct?
Rising. The website.
Rising, sorry.
It's the Mercury Rising.
The website. Oh, okay.
And then on social media, I'm the Mercury Rise everywhere.
Okay. So everywhere. Okay. Do you have YouTube? I don't know. Do you? Do you have a YouTube channel?
I do not.
No.
But my YouTube channel is coming out on that same Algol election. So May 8th, stay tuned.
I know. A new moon in Taurus is so beautiful this year. It's so fertile
it's so great.
It's so great. I'm gonna do something as well. I think it's one of the best new moons this year for sure. Very good.
It's kind of like the best time of the year, to be honest.
Right? Yeah. I was looking at it. I was like, oh my god, I have a client. She has birthday on the 8th, and I was looking at her solar return just the other day. I was like, oh my god, this is your girl. This is your year. So that's nice. Amazing. Yeah,
it's funny because even me and my clients now have a running joke because I do a lot of elections. Elections are kind of like one of my main offerings, and there's so many clients that I've used the May 8th date for. And now at this point, there's clients that came back and then they asked for something new and it just so happened to fall on their May 8th. And they're like, I can't do this. I can do this and that on the same day. That would be wild.
Yes, everything. If you can.
Anything you want to do, just do it on May 8th.
Yes. Guys, this is gonna be the day. Thank God we have this just before it. I love it. The universe sometimes works in the mysterious ways, and the last attempts to go live were failed, just so we can have this in the perfect moment now.
Yeah, I love that. Definitely. There you go.
Yeah, cool. That's amazing. I know. Are you still okay? People can find you. I'm just now because these talismans that you're gonna produce is gonna be. Are you gonna do personalized ones like? According to a chart, like you see a chart and then you make a talisman for this person. Will you do that? Like custom made?
So I will do that eventually.
Okay.
But right now I'm working just on weather-based talismans. Like right now, it's really good astrological weather for an Algol talisman. So that's the one that I'm making, and I'll continue to make a few of those. I'm making them a limited edition. I think I'm only making 15 or 20 Algol talismans. I still have not decided on the next one that I'll be making, but it will usually be just a handful of them. But very soon,
and tell people why Algol. I know
be able to hire me.
Oh, okay. Tell people why Algol, because it's like the notorious fixed star. So tell people. So we need a talisman to protect us from the notorious Algol. So I know I want to be positive. I put a positive spin on it. It's not, it's not notorious, but it is a hard fixed star. So this talisman kind of
Yes.
helps you work with energy. Let's say it that way. So I don't want to use any negativity. So excellent. That's why we need to purchase this one, limited edition. Watch this space, watch Joe's space, and get your talisman. Amazing. I love it. It's so good. Thank you very much for your time and knowledge
Yeah,
and
of course.
everything. We have to do this again. I just love talking to you. So awesome.
Yeah, no, it was the best. Thank you.
Okay. Bye, guys. See you soon. I just want to say bye. Bye.
See ya. Bye bye.